Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about rebuilding or restarting a whole life. I don't want to call it from scratch because I feel like the experience that you had got in States, maybe you didn't come back with capital or finance, but I feel like you came back to Kenya having gained so much in terms of exposure, experience, understanding. So now you're literally coming to build from scratch, but not from scratch. You get what I'm trying to say? Just let's now talk about that journey.
It was interesting. I was one of pure faith.
So you're living at your parents' house now?
Yeah, I moved into South Sea with my folks, and my sister Elizabeth and her daughter Kyla. And the idea was to stay there until our wedding day, when we would obviously move out into our own place.
And had you set a wedding date?
I think it took maybe a month or two to set the date.
Okay.
Which was October 9th.
And you came back when?
December 3rd, 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got married in 2010. And it was easy. I mean, I had the easiest period with regards to preparing for marriage. It was tough not being able to find a job because everyone wanted papers and I had none. I was a college dropout. No one wants to have a serious conversation with you unless you have your bona fides. And
at this time, were you open to doing any job? Or had you decided, nah, this is the direction I'm trying to go?
No, I was open. I was open to whatever. You know, I made I don't even know how many job applications I sent out. None panned out. My sister actually got me a meeting with a senior executive at Coca-Cola. She was a lady. I don't remember her full name, something Gishuru, if my memory serves me right. She graciously agreed to see me in her office about a possible job or advice on how to give myself the best foot forward. And she was harsh, man. She basically said, you know, obviously paraphrasing, and she wasn't polite about it. She was, I felt like she was unnecessarily cold and mean about it. And she basically said, without papers, I have no hope. Like, find something else to do or go back to school. Yeah. Again, she didn't owe me anything. It was a privilege that I was there in her office to begin with, you know, so it didn't wound me in that sense, but it gave me a pretty good idea of the general psyche of the market.
Yeah. Kenya versus States.
Here it's very paper-centric. I think we inherited that from our colonial masters, where everything's about your papers.
Your degree.
Your degree, yeah. Your degree, your CV, and all that. So eventually I took on a sales job for my sister's mother-in-law. She ran a company that helped place Kenyan high school students in Australian universities. Australian and I think US. And so I came on board and helped her improve her sales, her lead generation, pitching schools. I secured a number of pitches for her, which fell right in line with my whole sales experience. It's all the same thing. But
rightfully you said you're a person who likes order. So did the disorder within the Kenyan system begin to affect you, or in sales it doesn't matter? Because
immediately. I mean, even visually, you know, as a man we're very visually motivated. As an artistically inclined person, even more so. As a partially trained designer, it's to the extreme level. Just the trip from the airport to South Sea, I was like, what happened? I mean, the buildings are not well maintained. there's like a thin layer of dust that cakes on everything in Africa.
Yes.
That gives us this aged look, even though it's not aged. That presents a grimy image. You know, coming from continents where, you know,
You don't need to
things are
polish your
pristine.
shoes.
Yeah, I'd go 2 weeks without having to polish my shoes because there was hardly any dust you were walking on. It was different. I noticed immediately. Different energy, the hustle and bustle, complete disregard for traffic rules by Matriz. That
Law
was,
and order.
oh my God, that's the one thing I never missed. was matatu culture, but I was optimistic.
Actually, why? Because you see, coming from a country, I think of somebody who can fly back home after years of being away and used to on a certain system and a way of life. You know, you order this at this time, it arrives here. There's PO boxes. There's just structure.
Yeah.
What advice could you give one from your experience, because you've really transitioned well, and the story is going to continue, but what advice would you give somebody making a transition from the diaspora back home?
First thing is be open-minded. Second thing is don't expect it to be like wherever you've been settling. It's not the same. It's Africa. It's Kenya. It has its own unique disadvantages and advantages. So you can't come expecting that because you've experienced this there, then you should experience it here. That's not how it works. So having an open mind is extremely critical. The other thing I would say, and I feel it would be disingenuous for me not to share, especially for those guys in the diaspora mulling coming home, is you can't have a plan B. And I think that's what worked for me, that a lot of other people I know struggled with initially. See, I came home knowing I couldn't go back. So my attitude and mentality was very different.
Make this work. This has to work.
There's like whatever. There's no excuses. You make it happen. There's no plan B. There's no going back. I remember someone telling me how their cousin came back, and after 3 months of water shortages and blackouts, they just packed up and left. I'm like, that guy had too many options. Yeah, so your mental preparedness needs to be, you have to be aware. So if you have a plan B where you're like, you have an out in case things become uncomfortable or mediocre, it's going to be very difficult for you to settle in properly, because you'll constantly be looking over your shoulder.
Will be dangling.
Yeah, you'll be looking back. You'll be saying, in the States, this wouldn't happen. Why am I here? See, I just go back where there's order. And I don't blame people for feeling that way, because once you experience orderly systems, it's extremely frustrating. It's actually better that you had not experienced them, because then you don't know what you're being subjected to. You know what I mean? So I do understand, but you have to be committed 100%, and that's what worked for me, because the opportunities I saw were different. The way I saw problems was different from. You
looked at yourself as a solution to some of these problems.
Yeah, either a solution, or you just accept it's a handicap. Too bad, we move on. Yeah,
that's huge. That's profound.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get this job with your mother-in-law.
Yes, so I did the job for I think 2 or 3 months, and I respectfully quit. I didn't feel like, because I was doing a lot of groundwork that was beginning to build a swelling up of opportunities for the business, and the structures up there were not ready to handle it. And yet most of my compensation was entirely dependent on them closing the deal.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
So if you're bringing in sales, you're doing your job, but if the sales don't close, you don't get your commission from the job that you've already done.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
So, you know, said I can't do that. I quit. But
that's huge, and that's also a problem that happens with a lot of companies. you want a lot of leads or business opportunities, customers, but is your business ready to handle these customers that come?
Yeah, I mean, it's an important question business people have to think about, because then I find that's the quickest way to kill your own reputation. Like, you shoot yourself in the leg. So work on the structures and make sure the problem you're dealing with is how to feed the machine up there, as opposed to creating demand and not being able to deliver.
Okay, anyway, we'll get there when we talk about your business and hear if you've faced some of those challenges or what it is that you did to put those structures in. So you quit. What happens next?
I quit and focus on just getting this wedding done.
But the wedding needs money.
Yes, or so we think.